Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. We're just going to wait for a minute just to let everybody else that has registered filter in before we get started with an intro, an update from us, and then before we hand over to Leanne to start the session. So hopefully
Good afternoon, everyone. Although if you're in South Wales, it just feels like the evening. It's so grey.
It's very dark.
Yeah. Do you ever remember, like, when you were in primary school? I think it's towards the end of the term when the teachers were exhausted. You'd have books and games day where you just like you didn't clearly the teacher had just exhausted themselves and you could just have books and games and just rest. I think that's what we need to bring back for adults.
Where they wheeled in the TV and a box of snacks. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I knew there'd be some thumbs up for that. Yeah, definitely.
I think we
Best
need
day of the
to
whole year.
start to bring that. Wasn't it the best day? That's so true, Lucy.
Maybe we could arrange some sort of session where Beam comes into whatever company you're in. We turn up with loads of snacks, a TV, Netflix, and we just and like loads of
this time of year we put on one of those Hallmark Christmas movies.
Yeah.
We have loads of blankets, comfy clothes.
That would be a totally different session. All around wellbeing, of course.
Of course. Of course.
So thank you everyone for that's just coming along now. We'll get started in just a moment. We're just letting everybody filter in. We got quite a lot registered for today, so. All right, I see that it's actually 2 past, so should we get started?
Yep. Brilliant.
So good afternoon, everybody.
No,
and
Tom, are we recording? Sorry.
Yes, we are recording.
Oh, okay. I'll be quiet.
So good afternoon, everybody. This session is recorded as well. So if you do have to leave for any reason, then you'll be able to catch the rest of the recording. It will also be available in our replay library, which has all of the Lunch and Learn sessions, including the specialist sessions as well. So we have now got quite a selection because we've been going for over a year. So there'll be a link for that in the chat, plus in the follow-up email as well. But before I hand over to Leanne, we've got just a couple of announcements. And the first one is this month is the launch of our first in-person event that we are doing in partnership with the Wales HR Network. That is supported by Acorn and Darwin Gray. And we are coming together with a People Power series. And the first one is on the 20th of November. It's in Cardiff. It's in Hodge House, which is right in the centre. And it is all around recruiting with confidence. So it's helping businesses and organizations recruit the right candidates. So we've got a panel of experts from Acorn. We've got a senior recruitment manager from confused.com and senior director at Oggy as well, that will be able to answer any of your questions. So I'll put the link for that in the chat as well, and you're all invited to come, but there are limited tickets. So if you would like to come, get your ticket as quick as possible. So there'll be a few more announcements for future sessions as well. We've still got a lot of other sessions that are coming up in November as well that I'd love to tell you about. And I'm going to hand over to Leanne now to start the session on today's topic, the ripple effect.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tom. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us on this very grey day in South Wales. I think we definitely need a little bit of the ripple effect today. Those AI assistants always throw me. They always confuse me. I don't know about you. I've literally tried to talk to some in the past when they've joined a meeting. So,
You're not
um,
alone.
so as Tom said, many of you know us by now. There's lots of lovely familiar names on these sessions, which we're really grateful for. If any of you are brand new to this and to Beam, just a little introduction. So yay, well done, Anne. So I'm Leanne Weaver, and along with my husband Tom Weaver, we run Beam. And Beam really is focused upon helping other people to feel happier, healthier, more self-reliant. So we use a combination of our backgrounds in psychology, neuropsychology, and we're also therapists and coaches in lots of different disciplines as well. We work with all sorts of organizations. We work in over 45 countries, from really micro SMEs that perhaps just need more one-to-one support to international organizations with over 10,000 employees. And essentially, whether we're delivering a one-off workshop, whether we're delivering a training program, or whether we're working with individuals through therapeutic coaching, our goal is always to help empower people really to understand complicated topics in a way that they can make it relatable to them. And I guess that they can have those light bulb moments as well. And we set up People just over a year ago and could never have imagined how it would snowball. We did it because we work with so many people. We work with CPOs, HR leads, L&D leads. And what we saw over and over again was that those people were so caring and so concerned about everyone they're looking after. But sometimes they would even bring us in for training that they would really push for, and then they wouldn't attend the training themselves because they said they were too busy. And it's something that's known as the well-being paradox, that quite often the people who push well-being are the very people who don't look after themselves. They're so concerned with everyone else. And we saw this and just really wanted to help. And essentially, what that turned into was creating a ripple effect all around us. Because what we decided was if we built people, we could support those people who were then looking after everyone else, and it would create a ripple effect through. So it's quite nice that this session is about the ripple effect because it really is the premise of the People Network. So in today's session, we are going to look at the science of ripples, I guess what a ripple effect really is and what research tells us, and then really look at your ripple as a people person. We don't always consider it, but actually we feel it in other people and other people definitely feel it in us as well. And then we'll talk about how you can protect and create positive ripples. So making sure that the ripples that you're filtering out, whether it's at work or at home, doesn't really matter, are positive ones. So let's get started. So most of us are aware that somebody can enter a room and actually not even say a word, and you start to feel the energy of the room change. You can have someone walk into a room and their presence is so positive there that you feel the energy of the room pick up and they might not have said a word. Equally, you can have somebody walk into a room and the second they walk into that room, it's like, oh, shoulders slump. We often call them things like mood hoovers, Debbie Downers, psychic vampires, drains. You've probably heard all of those terms. That's essentially the idea of the ripple effect, is recognizing the power of each of our presence to have a positive or a negative effect on a whole group of people. I want you to think about the last time you had that experience where someone's energy, whether it was good or bad, suns and sinks. I've not heard that one, Heidi. I like that. Where someone's energy, whether it was good or bad, they affected your whole day. I want you to think about that. Think about what happened. If you want to, you can pop things in the chat box. I'm going to ask you to pop some things in the chat box anyway today. So if you want to, by all means, if this something sensitive, clearly don't mention the name of the person. But I want you to think about, is there someone in your life that has the power to instantly change your whole day in a positive or a negative way? And I want you to think about what that feels like in your energy. And if it's something positive, even when that person goes, do you stay feeling positive? And if it's something negative, even when that person goes, do you stay feeling negative? So when you start to reflect on that, you can see how just someone's presence can really impact you. And as people professionals, you can kind of think of yourself as a pebble in a pond, because everything you do will invariably create a ripple through your organization. So whether that's through individuals, through teams, through the culture, through well-being, that impact that you have absolutely will start to ripple out through the organization. And so I wanted to just explore the science of that. What does that mean? Why is it some people have this power to lift us or to drop us? Why is it that we pick up on the emotions of other people? And so there's something called emotional contagion. And this was a term that was come up from researchers in the 1990s, where they recognized that an emotion in a group of people is likely to spread consciously sometimes, usually unconsciously, and can ripple out into a really wide group of people. So, for example, if you have ever not really wanted to go to a family event and then you turned up and actually everyone was in a really good mood, and the next thing you know, you're kind of thinking, oh, I didn't even want to come to this, but I'm really enjoying it. Or maybe you've walked into the office one day and you've been in a great mood, and the second you walk in, you just feel the vibes in there and it brings you down. So many emotions are so powerful that we start to pick them up off other people. So, for example, you might see people that are really stressed and you start to feel stressed. You might see people that are getting angry about something, you start to get angry. Equally, you might see that people take pride in their work and you start to take pride in your work, or there's a real culture of being grateful and you start to do that. So, positively and negatively, we start to catch emotions from other people. And the whole point of this is to essentially make sure that we survive. So the brain worked out a very long time ago that in order for us to survive, it's really important for us to work as tribes and for us to do what the other tribe are doing. So we subconsciously will catch the emotions of other people in a way of making sure that we are part of that tribe and that we survive. So if we think back to primitive times, if one of our tribe members all of a sudden started to show signs of stress, then we probably should be stressed too, because the chances are they've sensed a threat, they've sensed a danger, there's something that I need to be on high alert with too. And researchers have seen this not just in humans, but also in apes as well. If the lead ape, the alpha ape, gets stressed, then the rest of the apes around them are much more likely to have increased stress levels. Equally, there are positive emotions that are really contagious as well. Last month, we talked all about kindness, and I just hinted at the ripple effect with kindness. What we absolutely know is that kindness starts to create a ripple effect in families, in workplaces, in communities. When we start to see kindness, that starts to ripple out as well. So if we kind of bring this back to our workplaces to begin with, think about when you have gone into a work environment and what emotions are you catching? So when you last walked into a work meeting, when you last had a engagement with your team, whatever it was, what emotions were catching then? And what might other team members be catching from you? So let's go to the chat box and I want to ask you, you don't have to say whose emotions in terms of names, but what I definitely would like you to put in the chat box is right now, if you think in maybe even just the last 24 hours, what emotions are you spreading? And then just pop them in the chat box. Anxiety. Definitely, if we think back to primitive times, if one of our tribe became anxious, it makes perfect sense we should become anxious as well. So definitely makes sense. Frustration, yep, that's a really contagious one. It's come up a couple of times. Stress, super contagious. Happiness and gratefulness, love that, Jade. Anger, yep, stress, definitely stress. It's a really interesting way to think about how we're impacting the people around us. And that's such an interesting point. So if I can just kind of divert a moment, if we just look at Heidi's point here, spreading positivity at work, but feeling tired and anxious at home. I'm gonna bring that. I mean, people are already liking this comment, and I'm not surprised, Heidi, because this is so relatable. If you're in a people-focused role, and I definitely feel this myself in the work that I do, there is I guess, an expectation that we need to be on, right? We need to be positive, we need to be engaging, we need to be compassionate and caring. And quite often, and we've covered things like compassion fatigue before, which you can catch up with on replays. Quite often, what happens is that's a finite resource. So by the time we get home to the people that we really care about, what we can actually end up feeling is exhausted, stressed, anxious, because we just feel drained of that. So there's a real point here, and I don't want to kind of coach you or anything here, Heidi, but happy to have a chat with you if it'll help. There's a real point here, which is how do you sustain that? So at the moment, what you're doing through the day is draining you to the point that by the time you get home, you can't sustain it. So what I would look at with you, Heidi, is what can we do throughout the day to sustain that? So how do I refill my cup? How do I recharge? When I teach about stress, quite often I will talk about the analogy of the autonomic nervous system being a bit like driving a car. And if I'm always driving a car with my foot on the gas, then eventually all that can happen is I either run out of fuel, i.e., burn out, or I crash. However, what many of us do is we spend our day, our week, our month foot on the gas, and then we either take time off or we book a spa day or something which actually slams on the brakes. And when we slam on the brakes when we've had the gas on full throttle, actually what happens then is we often tend to feel ill, we tend to feel even more exhausted, we catch a cold, you name it. So what I always work with clients is that we use the stress in our body in the same way as we drive our cars. So a good way to drive our car is that we balance the accelerator, we tap in the brakes, that we make sure that we know how to just go through life and every now and then tap the brakes. Like it's wonderful to have a spa day, to have a massage, to have a walk on the beach once a week, once a month. All of that's lovely, but that's not enough to manage our stress. What we need to do are just take micro pauses through our whole day to tap the brakes. Otherwise, we're heading to crash and burnout. I'm really glad you recognize it. And the point, I'm glad you shared it because I know this is absolutely relevant to lots of other people in the room as well. So, yeah, if you want to chat privately, Heidi, I'm more than happy to talk about how you can tap the brakes a bit more as well. So, my pleasure. And let me just see what other Nia said. Stress in work, happiness and calm at home. Absolutely. So it's that flip side, isn't it? And sometimes that leaves us feeling, and I love this word, discombobulated, right? Because I'm this one energy at work or at home, and I'm this one energy at home. And it leaves us feeling like we're wearing masks, like we just feel like we're really never being our true authentic self. And I guess if in terms of bringing this back to the ripple effect, what that does is it means that that's going to ripple out into my life. If I am constantly on the accelerator, then I guarantee that the people I'm working with will feel like they've got to have their foot on the accelerator too. They'll pick up on my busyness, my energy, my rushing, my pace, my frustration. If I am constantly feeling stress, I guarantee the people around me will pick up on that stress as well. And this is sometimes in really obvious ways. You know, you can think of the person who storms into the office and is banging things around. But this sometimes seeps out in a much more subtle way that we might not catch ourselves with. So I've got a couple of examples here of how it could seep out. So in your emails home, so let's imagine you're in HR and you've got a policy update and you've been working on it for ages. You know you have to get it out by the end of the day. It's been really stressful. You've had a lot of pressure on you. So when it comes to getting this policy out, which you've worked on and worded perfectly, in that email where you send it out, you're direct. Your tone isn't your usual friendly tone. People can just tell it's slightly off. And before you know it, the recipient receives that email, reads the hidden tone, which is so easy to do in written text anyway. And next thing you know, the next day, there's buzzes around the office that HR are fed up, or HR are cracking down, or HR are making major changes. And actually, the policy update was necessary. It's just that you didn't use your normal tone, that you just were exhausted, stressed, whatever it was, and that started to seep out. So something so tiny can start to have a huge ripple effect through the entire organization. Yeah, so traditionally and absolutely, also we have estrogen, which clearly males don't. Estrogen has many functions, but one of the key functions of estrogen is to make us care. Um, Hilariously, when we start to go through perimenopause and menopause, that can be nicknamed and I hope you don't mind me saying a naughty word here, but they are nicknamed the I don't give a shit years, because estrogen starts to decline and it stops us being quite as caring as we were. And actually, that's probably another ripple effect that we would need to be aware of. If we are a female of a certain age and we've been really caring and people have got used to that, and then we're going through perimenopause and all the joy that that brings, then people might just pick up on that ripple. "Oh, Leanne's not as soft as she was. Leanne's not as patient or compassionate." So I think there's that to consider too. Um, oh, that's a whole nother subject, Anne. I'm going to stay away from that for sure. But yes, I see your point. We can also create a ripple in a really positive way. So maybe you're running a training session or running a meeting, and instead of just kind of going in and being very facts-based, maybe you start that session with a bit of conversation, a bit of what I think is one of human beings' superpowers, curiosity. Curiosity, the ability to just start to be interested in other people. Now, imagine if you started a meeting or a training session, not just jumping into it. And I know there are times where time doesn't allow that. But if it's a team that you know well, starting it with curiosity, asking questions, sharing stories, essentially building psychological safety. Not only will people in that meeting feel more engaged, but they'll also leave with the knowledge of, oh, actually, when we ask questions, when we're curious, when we're interested in other people, then people respond. And what they're likely to do is to then go back and train or teach or run their teams in the same way. So the ripple effect of choosing curiosity is really powerful. I'm sure many of you have heard me talk about curiosity before. It's one of the superpowers in therapy. I will frequently work with a client on a one-to-one basis and encourage them to use curiosity in order to improve their mental health, to feel stronger, have more self-belief. If we use curiosity, things just change drastically. Another way that we can set a positive ripple, and again, this is definitely within my boundaries workshop, which you can catch on a replay, but this is one that I teach all the time. Literally was delivering a session on this yesterday. If you are in a position of authority to some degree where people are looking up at you, there is no point in telling your team, you must take your lunch break, you need to switch off, don't reply to emails in the evening. Those positive well-being habits, there is no point in telling your team that if you then don't demonstrate it. So if you never take your lunch, if you're always sat at your desk with a sandwich, if you answer your emails at 10 p.m., if you are kind of turning up at 7 a.m. and sitting there for, 12 hours a day, then no matter what you try and encourage your team to do, the ripple you will create is that other people will do what you do. It's the incredible thing about human beings. Human beings never do what other people say. They always do what other people do. So you can model a boundary ripple in a really positive way or in a really negative way. And one of the ways that I like to model a boundary ripple is by being okay with saying no, because it's something so many of us struggle with, particularly if we're carers and helpers. And it's something that I see people exhaust themselves with all the time. But if I say no to a colleague, to my friends, to a client, whoever it is, then not only am I setting that boundary for myself, but because I'm demonstrating it, I give them permission to say no to me as well. So it's a really lovely act of self-respect for both parties, and something that so many of us think is a mean thing, but it's actually a really kind thing. So our micro behaviors can have a huge impact as well, and we don't always pay attention to that. And I want you to kind of think of this as the quiet ripple you might have in your life. So think of something that you've done in your life that has created an unexpectedly positive ripple. So something you did that created an unexpected positive ripple. And while you're thinking of that, and hopefully pop in some things in the chat box, I will give you an example of a time where that's happened to me. So when I started working as a therapist, I made the mistake in the beginning of having the same phone number as my personal number. And you can imagine how badly that went. So very quickly, I realized I needed two phones. And I had one client that had perhaps overstepped boundaries in my early days. I perhaps wasn't as good at communicating them as well. And when she realized that I had now had two phones and was only replying in office hours, it actually came up in therapy. And she thanked me for it because she realized that she didn't have that kind of boundary with any person in her life. If someone basically, her terms were, if they clicked their fingers, I jumped. And so not only was she draining herself, but she then realized she had those expectations of other people. Now, I was doing it from a completely sort of selfish professional reason. I realized I'd made a mistake, but that created a lovely ripple because then she was leading quite a large team. And what she did was she made sure that the rest of the team did the same thing as well, that you can have that separation, that you don't need to always be available to other people. So I'm wondering if any of you have a quiet ripple story. Just look in. Maybe not. Maybe that's one you need to mull over a little bit, is it? Oh, hang on. Laura's got a lovely one. I completed couch to 5K and sent a photo to celebrate my family, a family member. Oh, see, that's perfect. We demonstrate the behaviours, which is amazing. And think of that within our work context. So often we're trying to instill values, culture, but are we demonstrating it? If we demonstrate it, that ripple will be so irresistible. Such a lovely story. Thank you, Laura. Okay, I will move on, but if you've got a story, feel free. So, how do you be more intentional with the impact that you have? So, the first thing is to become aware of it. So, first of all, become aware that every room you enter, every interaction that you have with another person, you will ripple into them. Now, we don't want to be so aware of it that we're really self-conscious, but it's a power that we all have. So if you are going into a big meeting, if you're going into a difficult conversation, if you're about to do a presentation, whatever it is, first of all, before you go into that room, notice your energetic state before you walk in and ask yourself, is this the energy that I want to bring to that room? So again, if you've been rushing around all day and then you've got to go and have a really serious conversation with someone, just rushing straight into that room could, to the person on the other end of it, feel a little bit stressful and aggressive, and they're going to kind of catch that stress from you. And then something that we just don't do enough of. So once you're aware of it, set your intention. I wish we did this more. Most of us just turn up and go into interactions and then wonder why they go wrong. But if we set our intention, we can choose what we want to bring to that room. So my intention is to be curious about what's going on with this person. My intention is to speak calmly. My intention is to listen more than I talk. My intention is to bring a sense of calm to a stressed office. That intention is so powerful. Again, a little therapy tip that comes up quite often. If you don't set your intention, then the day and other people will dictate for you. So if you just get up and kind of blunder through your morning, I guarantee by 10 a.m., your day will be dictated for you by outward forces. So a great tool is actually before you get out of bed or when you're having your shower and coming round, set your intention. How do I want to show up today? It's such a minor thing, but it's incredibly powerful because when I make the decision that generally I want to show up calm, peaceful, and with love, that's generally how I want to show up in every interaction I have. Then when I've made that decision, even when stuff happens to me, I feel like I can stay more on track. And that can then ripple out into my environment. And then the final bit is you've got to take action on that. So as I've said a lot of times, you have to model what you want to be multiplied. So if you want to see a change in your team, in your workplace, in your home, then you have to model it. Ask yourself, kind of, again, another therapy tool is become a curious observer. What energy am I bringing to this? What emotions am I kind of throwing on the table here? And are they useful? Is that really having the impact that I want? It's incredible because when you bring this level of awareness to your interactions, you start to recognize that you have quite a lot of power and influence. And we don't always realize that we have that ability. I'm just going to read Kirsten's point. Team meetings. Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. So much. I mean, we do a lot on gratitude, Kirsten, and gratitude is highly contagious. It's such a beautiful energy. So, gratitude falls under something called positive psychology, and Martin Seligman is the like father of positive psychology, if you like. And he has taken lots of these, what would have been termed as soft, kind of fluffy emotions like gratitude, and he's brought them into workplace. So gratitude, kindness, things like that, brought them into big workplaces like Ford and GE, and the ripple effect of a company starting to value gratitude, value kindness is measurable, literally measurable on the bottom line. It's so powerful. So the fact that you did that in your team is just beautiful. Okay, so the ripple begins with you. So you might work in an environment right now that doesn't really honestly sit with your values, isn't really a culture that you can feel part of. And that's hard. And it is hard if you're working in a culture that's perhaps fast and aggressive and very competitive, and that just is in your nature. It's difficult not to get caught up in that. But if you mindfully set your intention and then just use that almost like your compass, this is where I come back to, then you will be able to create a ripple, even if it's only within your tiny little network. And we never know how far that will go. So, again, in the chat box, I would love it. Doesn't matter how big or simple or complicated it is, but I want you to set your intention right now. So we're halfway through the day, we're just about at lunchtime. How will you ripple for the rest of today? What is your ripple going to be? Don't worry, Nicola. They always confuse me and throw me, but I know that they do that. So my ripple for the rest of the day is I am going to be calm and speak with love. That's how I intend to spend the rest of the day. Being empathetic, but taking care of myself too. Yes, absolutely. Okay, okay. I'm not sure what the otter is, Heidi, but it's really cute. I intend to be curious. Honestly, I need to do a full session on curiosity. I cannot tell you how powerful it is. Um, Amazing, Nicola, to be kind and calm. I mean, it's really nice when we set the intention of being calm. It kind of stops other people pulling us into their storm. Be positive. We can overcome almost anything. Well, so far, Jade, you've got 100% success rate. So I'd say the odds are absolutely in your favor. Okay, so I will just kind of summarize what we have covered. We all create ripples and we are only human. There will be times where we walk into a room and we create a ripple of stress, a ripple of sadness, negativity. We are only human. However, bringing your attention to this allows you to start to set the intention that you want to create a more positive ripple. Emotions are contagious, the good ones and the bad ones. Every emotion has the ability to be caught by someone else. That's really powerful if you are managing or leading people. Because essentially, if you need that team to show up with enthusiasm, you need to bring enthusiasm. If you need that team to show up with curiosity, you need to be curious. So being aware that you can bring that to the table gives you a little bit of a superpower. Be intentional with your impact. So set that intention every day. So making sure that you know that I am, as much as I possibly can, in control of how I feel for the rest of today. And we cannot ripple out positively unless we treat ourselves as such. So someone said that their intention is to be empathetic, but to also practice self-care as well. I completely support that. It's really hard to send a ripple out of positive energy if you feel awful yourself, if you're driving along with your foot full on the accelerator. So being kinder to yourself, taking stuff away from that kindness session last month, and being able to just be super gentle with yourself will give other people permission to do the same as well. So I will hand over to Tom, who will just wrap up and tell you what's coming next. Tom?
Thank you, Leanne. Yes, so we have some more events coming to you in November. It wasn't just the in-person event. On the day before, on the 19th, we have our next People specialist session. So we have expert insights all about what is changing in employment law with Darwin Gray. They've got two specialists, Owen John and Rachel Ford Evans, coming along to deliver on that session as well. That will be, there's already quite a lot registered for that. That's going to be a great session. On the 2nd of December, we have our People Lunch and Learn festive reset, which is a wonderful session. If you had come along last year, then you'll get to experience a time for us to just relax, de-stress. But we also have a special offer when it comes to the festive reset as well, which I will include in the email. We only have a few dates available, but it is a festive reset that we can come in and deliver a session to your organisation virtually, or if you're local to South Wales, then we could come in depending on time, but we don't have many times left. So I will put the dates that are still available in the email and the follow-up, so you can find out more, plus a little flyer as well. You'll be able to find out everything that's included in the session. There's also the link to the upcoming sessions in the chat as well, along with a link to join the LinkedIn network group as well for latest updates, posts, everything from the digital magazine to events to articles. There's lots of information in there. Thank you very much for coming along today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording, and Leanne will leave the screen up as well. So if you want to reach out to us, then you can. I'm just going to go in and stop the recording, so we will hang around for some questions.